Good afternoon. Today I'd like to go over a quick demo of the node meta model as implemented by ISY and Universal Devices on how we actually implement specific protocols or other protocols into the ISY device without the ISY device actually knowing anything about it. First off, there's a finite list of what's called units of measure that already exist on the ISY underlying operating system. These units of measure are things like Boolean, BTU, Celsius, days, any number of units of measure. And from that, we can actually upload a profile for a specific device. In this case, we'll use the LiFX model of light bulbs, which the ISY does not have a plugin for, does not need a plugin for. This is simply extracted or pushed to the ISY from a node server in this particular case. In order to do that, we have to upload said profile. That profile includes 3 different files: a node definitions, an editors, and an actual NLS naming file. First off, if we're going to push anything to it, we have to define our nodes. And in this particular case, we're defining a LiFX control module, a LiFX color bulb, and a LiFX white bulb. Okay. Each individual one has different commands and things that it can do. Like this LiFX control bulb literally just has one command that if you push the button, it will literally go out and discover everything, is what we've had it defined. And if you look here, discover. Okay. The LiFX color bulb has some other statuses, and these are variables that are defined in the ISY for consumption or use generically. ST typically means status, but you can really make it whatever you want. And each one of that status variable or any of those variables are then assigned an editor. And the editor then defines what kind of unit of measure that happens to be. In this particular case, the color attribute is UOM 56. So if we look at the units of measure and go to 56, it's actually a raw value. But instead of just a number, maybe we want it to actually have a Kelvin value. So you'll see the next one is actually LiFX Kelvin, UOM 26. We go back up to UOM 26 and we'll see that the value is actually Kelvin. So when we populate that value inside the ISY, it will give us the nice little descriptor. So we've defined our nodes, we've defined the variables that will show up in ISY for those nodes, we've defined the commands that we want to be able to send from those nodes, we've defined what type of variables or values that those nodes hold, and then we do the NLS naming where we actually define the nice English. Okay, we zip all those up, we upload them to the ISY, and now we have a profile. That profile will actually point to a node server, and from that node server at that point, we can do any number of REST calls in order to modify these values. Anytime these buttons are pushed, the value will be sent to the node server for update to the actual bulb itself. Therefore, the ISY itself does not know anything about the LiFX LAN underlying protocol that runs these bulbs. It is simply a meta model, allowing you to control any number of devices or protocols with no update to the firmware of the ISY device.